Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Software Asset Management SAM seminar with ServiceNow by abhra. We're very glad you could join us today. Our presenters are Kailash Atal, CEO and Managing Partner at abhra Inc., and Karthik Basava, Director of ServiceNow Practice, abhra. In this webinar, we'll have about a half an hour presentation, followed by about 10 to 15 minutes of question and answers. I request you to please hold your questions until we open up the Q&A session. The webinar will cover the basics of software asset management, the normalization process, license compliance and management, and the advantages of ServiceNow SAM. We'll also give you a quick demo of ServiceNow SAM, as well as our best practices that we've observed on our implementation. In addition, we'll provide exclusive access to a white paper we've written on software asset management. So without further ado, let's get started. Handing it over to Karthik and Kailash.
Thank you. This is Kailash Atal with abhra Inc. Thank you all for joining the presentation in our webinar around SAM best practices. And so before we get started with software asset management, just wanted to give you a brief overview of abhra, who we are, what we do, and a little bit about our credentials within ServiceNow space, just to set the context. And then Karthik will take you through ServiceNow SAM best practices, including a demo. And as you heard, we will also be sharing our white paper at the end of the webinar today. abhra Inc., we are a ServiceNow services partner as well as a managed services provider. Today, based on ServiceNow's new point systems, we are a silver partner with them, as well, focusing primarily on all of the ServiceNow related functions, and we'll talk about that, which are those modules that we support. However, from abhra's perspective, we have been in the product engineering space for quite some time, and to our credit, we have quite a few products in healthcare space as well as in financial industry on software as a service platform, and they are currently being used by thousands of users across the globe. So once we started and once we had our chops, cut in product engineering space, then we moved into product implementation, and that's where ServiceNow became our primary choice as far as the automation platform goes. So abhra looks at ServiceNow as an automation platform, not just a help desk or a service desk platform, but something that can automate the end-to-end process. And that's where we have focused heavily in building our intellectual property, including some of the applications and the products that are going to be rolled out on ServiceNow Store shortly, and developing an engagement model for our customers where we can get them the true advantage of cloud with regards to testing out some of the features and proof of concepts, proof of value on ServiceNow through a freemium engagement model. So primarily our service offerings are, we have four primary service offerings: product engineering, product implementation, then managed services or ongoing value management of any platform that either we built or we implemented, and then some of the professional services aspects around consulting, and that can be delivered on time and material engagement. And some of our unique strengths, as our customers have told us for the last 4 years, particularly in the ServiceNow space, is our unique engineering capability. Even though we bring in the functional expertise where needed, however, our unique engineering capability built with a global delivery model with around 75 plus certified ServiceNow consultants across the globe, we have been able to provide a lot of engineering solutions for the platform. And then we have a global center of excellence, which is based in US and in India, Hyderabad, India. And our MSP instance is also available for small and medium businesses where they want to get the value of the platform for a smaller scope, or even do a proof of value or proof of concept for a large enterprise customers. So with that, some of the things that we have developed core competency in ServiceNow are, moving on to the next slide. So as I said, we have primarily focused on engineering capabilities, and we look at ServiceNow as a platform more than as a tool or a system for a particular function. So when you look at from a design through engineering and from technology to functional landscape, ITSM, of course, is one of our core strengths. But in last 2 years, we have built a lot of credibility, capability, and credibility in ITOM space as well. And that includes CMDB, that includes orchestration, as well as service watch related activities, and so on and so forth. And for last 1 year, we have also been investing in developing products on the top of the platform, ServiceNow platform. So it just gives you a view of what we do in ServiceNow space. And with that, I will hand over to Karthik to talk about our capabilities in software asset management specifically, which is a recently new offering from ServiceNow. And so we are very delighted, happy to share not only some of our best practices, but some of our learnings from the recent implementations that are ongoing on software asset management as we speak. So with that, over to you, Karthik.
Thank you, Kailash and Praveena, and good morning to everyone who's just joined today on our webinar. Without much ado, talking about the topic for today, which is software asset management. And what we're going to cover from an asset management standpoint, I'm going to start off with talking about a few challenges and then dive into ServiceNow's SAM solution that is provided out of the box, and then talk about a few of our experiences and best practices from our implementations, as well as key takeaways for the day. And then we would open up for some Q&A questions towards the later part of the conversation. With that, I'll be starting with the challenges on the SAM side. If you're a SAM practitioner, and given the rapid and dynamic change of the topology of the software being used, I guess these are some of the challenges that we have heard from our customers say that they are facing with managing softwares today. And to highlight a few of them, talking specifically about unwanted noise during discovery, there are plenty of discovery tools out there, which when you turn on, any inventory tool brings in every single executable or patch file or a security update as a installed software. And more often than not, it only adds to the noise, and that has helped the SAM administrators to manage the software, which is more critical in terms of being compliant and in terms of having any financial bearing, right? So there are tools out there which are bringing a lot of noise. Then, of course, the ever-changing environment in terms of IT and software topology, with regards to new SaaS products being brought in, new software being upgraded and installed every single day, with the shadow ITs being a challenge additionally on top of it. And added into it the complications that SaaS products bring in, where the licenses are not managed on a system level or that can be discovered by any agents or so, but more from a portal standpoint. And with all of them being and staying audit ready at any given point of time, and be prepared for any vendor to be coming in auditing. So again, these are some of those challenges that you would, if you are a SAM administrator or if you are an IT department head, you would come across in your day-to-day operations. And this is exactly the pain point that we would like to, that ServiceNow is trying to address with their offering, and what we are as a implementation partner doing in the space to address those challenges is what we're going to talk about in the rest of the conversation. Moving forward, well, a couple of other things we'll skip is having a clear roadmap and having a good consumer experience, which is ServiceNow all about, giving the modern 21st century experience that users get outside in the real world, be it like Uber place, and having that kind of experience within an enterprise where they can order software and make it a lot more easier and efficient in terms of your request fulfillment process. So with that as a brief background on the kind of challenges that we see in the SAM space, we would then dwell into what does ServiceNow offer to address these challenges in general, as well as what is its product all about when they talk about software asset management as an application on ServiceNow. Well, the picture here talks about how ServiceNow supports the life cycle of a software and what are the various applications and modules that ServiceNow provides in facilitating the SAM administrators to manage the softwares in its life cycle. And we would jump into each one of them. To summarize on this particular slide, the CMDB is at the heart of the this whole lifecycle management of softwares, with various other applications supporting across the journey of it, which we would dump into in the further slides into each one of them, starting with the first one, which is entitlements, right? So moving on the entitlement side. So what does ServiceNow provide for you to, of course, manage entitlements, right? Bring in all your entitlements. As a system of record, it provides tables, which most of you as users of ServiceNow would be well aware that it's a great system of record. It has a series of databases to store any set of entities, be it your incident problem chain. So is entitlements entity, which can be maintained and managed as a system of record on the instance. Now, in addition to it providing the basic table, it also provides a service called a PPN library, which is, again, a unique aspect of their SAM product, which actually helps in down the line in your normalization, as well as in this case, picking up your SKUs of the license that you might have purchased with various vendors and creating models or software models for the respective SKUs is a service that ServiceNow provides as its SAM offering, as part of its SAM offering in the entitlement space. So what you're seeing on the screen here again is how you could be integrating with any of your third-party vendor management tools that you might be using today and procurement tools. Again, integration could be REST-based, and some of those tools are supported out of the box for integration. But essentially, the idea being you bring in the PO data, which would have your PPNs or publisher part numbers on them, and using ServiceNow's PPN library, when you try to import or integrate, it looks them up, the respective SKUs and PPN numbers, and creates the specific or the exact entitlement records along with their respective models within ServiceNow. So on one side, on this aspect, we're trying to create the entitlements that you hold today and make ServiceNow into a system of record to hold your entitlements. Once you, and this is how your PPN typical representation is. If you get a PPN, you will get a model like this from ServiceNow side created automatically. So once you have your entitlements in the system, that will also enable you to publish your product catalog. Once you have bought in everything that you own with the automatic model creation, you could as well then open them up on a software catalog and have it ready for request management and the service catalog aspect of request management of the software in general, right? So you could easily convert those software models into catalog items on the software catalog. And again, this is the standard platform feature of ServiceNow, where you could be using their catalog and the request management process to manage the request right from approvals to notifications to so on and so forth, leveraging the workflow engine of ServiceNow, which is a platform feature. So now on one side, you have your entitlements bought in and then model published or catalog published. Now the other side of the house, which is, okay, so you got an entitlements. Now, what do you use today, right? What is your landscape or the software that you're using today? So to that extent and reason, ServiceNow provides you with a discovery and normalization engine. Now, discovery is a product, is a standalone product, also is available for users to populate their CMDB. But discovery in the context of software asset management helps you discover all your installations in the system. You would configure it like you would configure discovery traditionally, wherein you would set up a mid server and then provide service accounts for you to be discovering your entire estate or data centers within your networks and network ranges. And it polls, again, ServiceNow's discovery is agentless discovering. So through mid server, it has a series of conversations and brings in all the respective software that are being used today in your network landscape, right? And once discovery brings in the data, the additional service that ServiceNow provides from a SAM context is helping in normalizing the installs. Installs at the end of the day would be pulling you major version, minor version, all the upgraded patch related information. And the ServiceNow normalization library will normalize it to a standard product, version, and an edition for all your standard products out there. So that's again a key offering from ServiceNow from a SAM standpoint. It's normalization library. Now, one of the aspects we discussed during the challenges is the unwanted noises during discovery and how could that be avoided. So discovery as a product has filters applicable right when you're configuring to you, wherein you can apply keyword-based filtering. You could apply say security patches or update files or setup files. You could define those keywords right before you run the discovery, wherein discovery then eliminates, filters all of those specific keywords and names in the installs, and you will be populating only those data which is required for us to be managing, or specific software or vendors that we are looking for. And it goes without saying that you can also be applying filters for specific vendors if you're only looking to manage a few vendors in your phase one or across the program. So moving on, like we discussed, we had entitlements now on the system already, and we have also on the other side, we bought in through discovery all the software that you're using today and have normalized it so far. Then the key aspect is helping you reconcile, right? And reconcile with what you own and what you are using today. And this is again one of the offerings from a SAM product standpoint that ServiceNow helps you with. Just to define the process of reconciliation again, you have entitlements on one side where you have your entitlement button, and through the PPM library, you're actually creating a standardized model on which you are storing all your entitlements. On the other side, you had discovery run, and you have identified all your installs, and all the installs are then normalized to a discovery model. A discovery map helps to map the discovered models with the software models, and eventually it checks between your model, software models and discovery models to give you a compliance position. So that's how reconciliation within ServiceNow space works. And again, we will look at it quickly on the instance as well, so that it could be a little more visual and clear. But that's again one of the key application modules within ServiceNow's SAM product that will help you in managing the lifecycle of the SAM. Moving on, once you have run your reconciliation, so far you did 3 core steps, which is entitlement was bought in, discovery ran, normalized, and reconciled. So what do you do with the reconciliation report? If there is, in terms of overage, how ServiceNow also helps you with some remediation actions, which include reclaiming those licenses, which is uninstalled softwares, again, through its orchestration and it's again, software installs or uninstalls as a SKU is added to your SAM subscription. So which you would be able to uninstall those which are not approved, and you could have a workflow defined in terms of it having necessary approvals before you go ahead and delete, but it does provide you with the capability to reclaim those licenses or where they are not being used and where they are installed without proper approvals to delete them as well. So there are certain reclamation rules that you can configure. You could use their orchestration and other packs to be uninstalling the software. So that's like from a lifecycle standpoint, you could right from ordering through putting in the entitlement to discovering to remediating and reclaiming unused licenses and uninstalls. It supports entire lifecycle. That's what we're getting to. And eventually, one of the core and the top features of ServiceNow platform is its reporting capability. And specifically on the SAM side, the subscription comes with performance analytics included in it. So it's a real-time dashboard where you can have across publishers as well as specific vendors, as well as your overall report, and then have your respective dashboards configured for various stakeholders who are interested in the report. So you could have a dashboard for your CIO who's more concerned with regards to compliance in general at a high level and the thoughts, or you could have an administrator respective dashboards again configured to whatever use case you're trying to find out from the platform. So that is a high-level overview of how ServiceNow in theory at least, on the deck side, where you could be managing the software across the life cycle. With that as a theoretical background, I would like to quickly jump onto the instance and show you some of the core aspects, particularly around the licensing side of how ServiceNow supports them. And for the demo, I'll be talking about 4 key applications as well as entities that you'll be showing. I will start with showing you some software installs of how when we set up discovery and we ran, what installs we got. Then I will quickly show you some of the discovery model, which is a normalized product of the software install, and then show entitlements and then the reconciliation results. I know it was at a fast-paced presentation, but we will have time for questions towards the end of the presentation. So please do shoot any questions that you might have, and you can start texting on them on the chat window, and our team can start collating them for you. With that, let me jump onto the instance. So this is one of our demo instances where we have configured the SAM application for this demo. So right now I'm on the software installations table, and you would be seeing that for the few, in fact, just 2 machines that we have run the discovery on, we got about 2,707 records as installations. And as you see in the list, more often than not, there are like specific library files, developer files, and so on and so forth, which might not, at the end of the day, be critical for managing or active management of software per se, right? And if I want to filter this out on a specific vendor, I could always be doing that and apply my filter to just be showing that. So I have like about 59 or approximately 60 Microsoft publisher-specific software installs in my 2 machines that I would run the discovery on. And even within which you would see that an install has a redistributable file within it. It has multiple major versions, minor versions. And for all practical purposes, you as an administrator or a SAM administrator would not be necessarily concerned with all the installations that are there. The only reason I'm trying to say, show you this is tell you that it only picks up everything that it finds on those machines. Now, coming back to your SAM as an application, on the left-hand side, on the application navigator of ServiceNow, we would have the SAM as an application. And when you expand, obviously, you would be having the respective modules. And the core modules that you get out of the box when you activate SAM is your licensing as a module. Of course, overview is reporting, licensing, there's reconciliation, there are removal candidates, which is more remediation side. There's discovery, which helps you in identifying all the installs. And last but not the least, the administration side, which will help you in setting up some of those core configuration rules and other properties. With that as an overview of the SAM as an application, the installs, you would notice that installations is not presented at least out of the box for you to come in and look at it, right? Because as a SAM administrator, it would not be critical for you to come in and see what exactly is being bought in. So installations is not part of this module. Once you set up and run discovery, the discovery will populate all the discovered software in the installations table. But what is useful and available for the users is your normalized version of the softwares that are being discovered, and which is what you would find in your discovery models. So under discovery models, it's more about your normalized software content being bought in. So you would see that the status is found here. Now talking about normalization for a few minutes. So there are like, when ServiceNow first runs, and within the library of normalization that it has, it tries to normalize to the best extent possible. And what is it looking to normalize is it's looking to normalize your publisher product version and edition, the major version and edition. And there might be cases where it might not find a match, or there might still be cases where it is partially normalized, or and you could at the end of the day do even manual normalization where you feel required and where it's a custom software or a product that you're using, right? So it provides you the flexibility to normalize it itself. But in addition, one of the key things that we could be talking about as ServiceNow offering is a content service that ServiceNow provides, which is more a crowdsourced approach to normalization that ServiceNow has taken, wherein anonymously it sends the data. If you so opt to in this content service program, you would be having, obviously you would be having an option to opt in or not. But if you so choose to opt in, it anonymously sends all your installed data to ServiceNow Central Library, and it does it across all its customers and uses a crowdsourced approach to actually look at and find out the normalization library. And that is how they keep updating their normalization engine and library to help in ever normalizing. So what does that mean for your normalization table is, even if there are matches that are not normalized today in your first run of discovery and your first run of normalization, over the course of the week, if you were actually have subscribed for content service, you would find that it gets normalized on the background every day. It's a continuous service that runs, and every day there's a job which runs and checks for match not found, and then tries to normalize it to the best possible extent through its ever changing or upgraded normalization library. So it's another key aspect that I wanted to showcase from the demo standpoint. Yeah, going back to the deck. So we saw installs, we saw discovery models. So let me jump on the entitlement and the reconciliation rules to align my brief demo for today. On the entitlement side, so you come back to the licensing module, wherein you could bring in the entitlements in two possible ways. We talked about the publisher part number and the PPN library. So just to show you a PPN library, so if you were trying to create a new software entitlement, this is out of the box form, wherein you would find publisher part number as a form field. And if you're trying to look it up, so this is the PPN library that we were referring earlier in my presentation, where we said ServiceNow provides you that library to pick any of the publisher part number, based on which it automatically creates a software model, so on and so forth. So let me just pick one of the publisher part number, and you would see that a model has already been associated with it. And in addition to creating this model, it also creates a discovery, or it maps to the discovery map existent. And on top of it, then you would pick up what is the license metric that this particular software model is associated with, and how many rights you own, and then you create the record of an entitlement, right? So that's again creating it manually, but of course, more often than not, if you're already having it in some Excel format, or if you have from your source systems, you could integrate and have a transform and bring the data into the respective table, which is the software entitlement table. At import time, it could check for those PPNs and then create, and you could have a report of what is created, what is not, and necessary actions, so on and so forth. So this is the place where you could be bringing in your entitlements. And of course, the key entity or at the heart of software asset management is your software model. So all your entitlements are associated with a model, and the model is also associated with the discovery map, which we talked about, which will actually help the system understand how should this model be mapped to what is being discovered, and specifically the discovery model, right? So this is where the whole connection happens, which is in your software model application or module, wherein you would have your general description like costs, if you want to bring in costs and finance aspects to it, how it is associated with the discovered software, and what are the suite components, and of course, if you want to have this model published on your catalog item, right? So a model is a key entity, just to note. And now that you have your entitlements and licensing bought in, and you have discovery run, and you have your installs bought in as well as discovery models, then you would go to reconciliation, and typically you can choose to run reconciliation for all the publishers, or you can pick up a publisher and then just say run, right? In the interest of time, I'm just showing you some of the reconciliation we just ran. And so once reconciliation runs, it gives you a status and a report across various levels. This is at a product level. It also reports you at a software model level and at an install level. So at a product level, when I run for IBM as a vendor, you will see that there are 3 products that we are using, and all of them are complying today. And I can drill down into the respective report to understand what is associated with the software model and how am I doing with my entitlements. In this case, I have 0 installs. But if I would have any installs, it would tell me here how many of them are installs or unlicensed installs, how many of them are for remediation's sake, how many of them have to be removed and identified. So that's how reconciliation runs, as well as proposes its results for necessary actions to be taken, which could include even uninstalling to purchasing the additional licenses required. That's how it helps you facilitate making those decisions. With that, I think we covered most of the core aspects. The last aspect that I would like to show you before I go back to the deck is the reports and dashboards. Obviously, highly configurable dashboard. You can have any report that you would like to, and we could. I mean, this is out of the box report where we are talking about in our landscape currently how many publishers are out of compliance and what are the installation count. All of them again drillable reports. Click them and click through, and you can get down to the final details of each of that report. With that, I would again wind up my brief demonstration of SAM today, and moving on. I think there are a few questions as well, which I will come to shortly in two more slides that I want to cover before I jump on to Q&A. So I know it's a lot of content here that we'd be more than glad to share on a follow-up workshops as well as individual conversations, one-to-one conversations, which our team will be reaching out to you for. In addition, for today, we have some of the best practices that we have been implementing or have learned from our past implementations and in doing this over and over with multiple customers. Again, SAM as a product is relatively new. Also, we've been evaluating and working with multiple customers in POCs. We've been helping them implement and do it for multiple customers, and so on and so forth. And again, this is a briefer final point of bringing it into slide, but we have a detailed book on the best practices as well as some of the implementation journeys, which we will be sharing with all exclusively to all the participants of this webinar today. Let's see. Okay. So, starting some of them in terms of best practices, while you can have discovery run against all the servers and desktops, it's typically your SCCM is more agent-based discovery, so it brings in a lot more installed finer details. So, the recommended best practice is then to use SCCM for Windows desktops and discovery for more from server standpoint. And for Mac, if you're having Macs in your estate, using them to be using it as a source of discovery. I think the second point is really key, wherein as a program, SAM no doubt is a very exhaustive and intense program, and having realistic objectives and goals for the program is very critical in terms of we cannot come in and say that, okay, day one I run the tool and then I would be expecting to see across all the vendors I'm the 100% compliant result, or I'll be having normalization done across 100%. I think having some more realizable as well as clear objectives for each program, and having a program with a phase-wise journey is very critical, because trying to boil the ocean with all the vendors, given that each vendor has its own set of SKUs and the different license metrics, it becomes a little challenging and has to be ready. Customer themselves has to be ready in terms of having a lot of those data correct, in terms of your entitlement information, in terms of validating it correctly, in terms of whether this entitlement is telling me the right information of the amount of active rights that I use, and is the system we're ready to bring that in, right? So that's key. And I think we're running short of time. So again, the slide as well as the best practices guide will be shared with you, all of the participants exclusively. Moving on, I would just summarize my presentation with 3 simple takeaways from this for today. A, like I was just talking about, having clear and manageable objectives and roadmap for the SAM program. So what do we mean is, when you talk about objective, there are different perspectives to how you want to look at it, right? You could say, okay, today I want to look at it as a system of record where I'm storing all my entitlement information, where I can manage what I have as entitlements. We've seen customers do that, where the program has been around, first phase at least has been around bringing in the entitlements. There have been few customers who said they wanted to have it more of as a catalog, where I want to address the request management aspect of a software. So they chose a route of going through a service software catalog with request management being addressed initially. And we've still seen customers for whom license management is a key aspect, in which case, again, they're not trying to put in a software catalog or trying to do entire record, but go vendor-wise, product-wise. These are the top 10 products that I want to stay compliant or actively manage, and address that in terms of bringing the respective entitlements, doing the specific discovery, and running the reconciliation and analyzing the data and having reports specific to those vendors, right? So those are the kind of objective and clear-cut programs that we've seen yield much better results. So that's what we definitely wanted to recommend as a key takeaway. 2, staying close to out of the box. I think any customer of ServiceNow would understand the importance of this one, in the sense of, with the ever evolving product, they continuously upgrade to the various applications across the platform. And needless to say, on SAM's side, today on Kingston, you would have 4 vendors supported ServiceNow by ServiceNow out of the box, which is Microsoft, IBM, VMware, and Oracle. And just with London release, they have released support for Adobe as a software pack. So you would see that with London, Madrid, will be coming up with SAP. So it's a continuous evolving product. So staying close to out of the box will help you in each of those upgrades to get the new iterations of the product come in. So it's very critical to be staying close to out of the box. And finally, of course, enlisting the service of an experienced SAM implementation partners like ourselves. It's got to do with, as an application, like it's discussed, it's a continuously evolving product. So we as a partner will continuously invest in understanding the nuance of each and every application module, the feature, how best to be designed. From a design and functional standpoint, how do you want to define your models? Do you really want to manage it at a multiple version level or at a product level? So there's a lot of conversations that when you talk about implementing, and it's not about just turning on and off a few aspects, but more designing aspects. So definitely having an experienced implementation partner will help you a long way in implementing your program. So with that, I would open the floor up for some questions, and
Thank you, Karthik. That was a great presentation. To all our participants, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box and we'll address them one by one. We already have a few questions. So to start with, what are the measurable or quantifiable benefits from implementing ServiceNow SAM? Would you like to take that, Karthik?
Sure. I think it's a very good question. And again, ties back to the takeaway that we just discussed in terms of having clear-cut objectives. So when you talk about quantifiable and measurable benefits, so part of your exercise, the first thing that we will be doing is defining those objectives and then tying them back to this KRAs and KPIs. And in this case, if you talk about some of the quantifiable benefits, it could be your true-up cost in terms from an audit standpoint. How much are we saving on uninstalled or unused software? How much could be saving? It could be a benefit that if you're an SAM administrator and you want to go it as a benefit to your team, you could talk about, by running this discovery, I identified that there are like X installations which are not being used, which could be redeployed or harvested, and that's a benefit you can talk about. And again, from a different stakeholder perspective, there are different benefits and KPIs that we could be defining, right? If you're a compliance manager, again, staying audit by itself, how many audit hours have been saved in terms of being prepared, ready for audits? It could be a measurable benefit that we could benefit, like your X past audit, we had to spend X amount of man hours, and now we were able to do it in this much time frame. Is again a quantifiable and measurable benefit by using this. Hope that helps. But again,
so Karthik, just as another point to add is, software asset management in itself as an automation function provides a lot of value to an enterprise from both license usage and license cost optimization, as well as from the license compliance and risk mitigation perspective. So I think those two broad categories as a software asset management function, and then ServiceNow with its ever growing list of content that it's going to publish and keeping you current with it, bringing it as close 100% automation as possible. The benefits again should increase year over year for the audience as well as the enterprise customers. So I just wanted to add that. Go ahead with the second question.
I think there are a few from Sherry here on the organized side.
So yes, moving on to the second question. That was a fantastic first question and a very informative answer. Our second question is, are the software models and metrics configurable by customer?
Yes. So the short answer to that question is yes. The software models and the metrics can be configured by the customer. What do we mean by that? You could have custom license metrics as well as use out-of-the-box metrics. You could define a new metric if it is not available out of the box. And of course, you could be creating a custom software model. But the real question or point to consider would be, do we really want to create custom software model and metric? Why is it that we have to create a custom software model? So what do we mean by that? Again, as a PPN library, ServiceNow tries to bring every single standard product onto its library and available for automatic creation of a model. If they are not, we could always choose to reach out to ServiceNow and say, hey, we didn't find this and we're trying to. So that's something that we did for some of our customers whom we implemented. We reached back to ServiceNow and said, we didn't find these PPNs. Is that in your roadmap to bring that in? So they have actually gave us a lead time of 2 weeks and they brought that respective PPNs into the system. Again, this is aligned to our idea of staying close to out of the box. In the long run, that will really help in the long way if you're trying to stay out of the box. So that's the reason why. But short answer to, could we still have to? Yes, there have been cases where we did also, particularly with respect to custom software that have been developed in-house by some of the customers. So we do create software models which are custom. Hope that helps. Sherry. Yeah.
Thank you for that in-depth answer. Moving on to another question. I'm sure we will need to do some mapping to assist the normalization process. But how many software instances are covered out of the box, and what are the criteria for inclusion? For instance, not open source, etc.
Like I showed you the normalization library, I think today as a record, they're close to 100K or 150K. Let me just open it. There's a finite number. If you're asking for the finite number, we can shoot out that number to you who has the respective question. But yes, out of the box, it does cover for a lot of those softwares, particularly the standard publisher softwares. And what is the criteria for inclusion? Not open source. If I read the question right, the mapping to assist the normalization process. So like we discussed this in the demos when we're doing the brief demo, there were definitely going to be softwares which are not fully normalized by system, right? That's where assisting in the normalization process will come in. So there will be few which are fully normalized, there could be few which are partially normalized, and there will be still fewer which are not at all normalized, right? Then the match has not been found. So yes, the system provides you the ability to help or assist in those process by, you could come in and manually normalize it. And what do we mean by that? So if there was an install which says product A with version B and edition C and minor version, whatever, XB, XX and all, right? So you could define then, okay, so if the system didn't find that particular normalized software for it, what is the product? If you know what the product is with the standard publisher or your model that you have created custom, you can pick that as a product and normalize that to say any version or any edition, it is just mapping to this particular model. So that is how you'll be able to help in the normalization process by mapping few of those installed or discovered software which have no normalized content available out of the box. So hope that helps.
Thank you, Karthik. Moving on to our next question, and to our participants, please keep typing your questions. We'll take them as they come. The question is, does ServiceNow support BigFix as a discovery tool?
Yes, when you say support, well, it does support any third-party tool, whichever has API integration supported by on the side. And BigFix definitely is a tool that we have integrated with multiple, we've done it for multiple other customers as well. You could definitely be bringing in data from BigFix.
All right, we're going to take one last question because we're running close to time. One of our participants is interested in how is ServiceNow's SAM module licensed?
Got it. Well, like with any other SKU of ServiceNow, from a licensing standpoint, SAM is licensed based on computer nodes. Now, a computer node is different from a discovery node. So how do we define a computer node is any system or device or server on which you're actively managing your software on from ServiceNow is considered as a computer or a computer node from SAM standpoint. And it is licensed by procuring for X number of nodes that you want to manage from the platform today. So say if you are using 100 devices or end user computing devices and say 20 servers, then you would license for up to 120 computer nodes of SAM, and it is priced per node. So you would procure for that many nodes and you would be able to subscribe.
Thank you for the in-depth answers, Karthik. I think we'll have to wrap it up now because we're running out of time. Thank you everyone for participating. We hope you enjoyed the seminar, the webinar, and found it informative. We'll be sending everyone a link to a recorded version of the webinar, which you can access later, as well as our exclusive white paper on SAM. So with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you.